Thank you.
So the last time we had this call with Montgomery County, we were the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. And earlier this year, 6 different affiliates across the country formed their own organization, the Professional Remodeling Organization. So we are now pro Mid-Atlantic, and very happy to be on our own and starting a new organization. The local organization is exactly the same as it was before. We just have a new name. So if you hear you don't hear about NARI anymore, we're pro. We have been conducting for the last year a monthly phone call with either DCRA, Fairfax County, and now Montgomery County. And to be honest, I put off Montgomery County because nobody was complaining about what was going on in Montgomery County. Everybody seems to have been very happy under the new leadership there. But we understand there's a lot of good things happening and new things that you need to share with us. So we have actually more than we advertised. We have the director of DPS, Mitra, and help me with your last name. How do you pronounce your last name?
Pedoeem. Pedoeem.
Pedoeem.
Correct. Yeah.
And Mitra has been with Montgomery County 2 years about?
Yes, by next month, it would be 2 years.
Yeah, and you spoke to us after you had recently become the director, and you had a list of 130 action items you were going to tackle. So we're anxious to hear about those. And then we have George Muste, who is our old friend. He has worked with our organization for many, many years. And the unadvertised people on the call are Jim Sackett, who heads the residential inspections, and Robert Kelly, who heads up plan review. And I see Jeremy Sup. And are you a plan reviewer, Jeremy? Yeah, you can shake your head.
No, I'm one of the program managers for residential construction, deal with a lot of the electrical issues.
Okay. And I saw Mariella is there too. And I'm glad to see your face. We've interacted by email, and it's so nice to see people's faces. So,
I agree.
And did I miss anybody from Montgomery County? Everybody else is a remodeler, right?
Well, I think I have Sonia, and I also saw Carmen. Is she here? I do not know if Ehsan is here. And Marcus Stoop is here.
Right.
I'm here, Mitra.
Okay.
So, thank you all for joining us. As we get finished with the presentation, one of the things that the other jurisdictions have allowed us to do is ask questions, and they have very graciously put themselves up to be questioned. And I'm sure we have a lot of questions, but if I could turn this over to you, Mitra, please tell us all about the new permitting system. That's why there are so many people on this call. We want to know what's happening. And
Sure. Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Mitra Pedoeem. It's about 2 years, close to 2 years, that I have been the director for Department of Permitting Services. Under my 90-day work plan, I had planned 85, improvements and enhancements to the very already dynamic department. And I'm glad to see that many of those are already in place, or we are in the process of making them happen. All of those action items would go through 3 major categories. One of them was our reorg. Our reorg was completed last year, and we created a new division of customer support and outreach. And as you see, Carmen is our, sort of new. She has been here more than a year now. Carmen, is that correct? Our division chief for the customer support and outreach. And we are very lucky to have our outreach, person that is Sonia Burke, that she has been helping us with many of our outreach and customer initiatives. I let Carmen to talk about some initiatives, but I will just go straight down to the system. Before I go to the system, just two, I guess that more news. First of all of you probably by now that we are in the new building in Wheaton. And also our offices have been open since June of last year. Under the leadership of Carmen. So we have people that they can walk in for any issues or questions that they have. Also, I'm going to do an advertisement for my department. We are started filling a lot of our opening. So we have a lot of opening that it's hard to get people that with the characteristics that we are looking for. But if you know anyone, we have a lot of opening, you could send them to our website or Montgomery County website. In regard to our new system, in May of last year, we ratified the contract with Energov. Energov is with Tyler Technology. They're one of the leading permitting and licensing vendor in United States. We have some neighboring jurisdictions that they already using them. They are a very large company with 6,000 employees, and they basically just do software and digitalization of the government. That's government is their only, most of their clients are government, different agencies within United States. And we asked them to give us a very expedited schedule to bring our system to, let me just turn off because I have this team, okay. We have already, our system right now, the current system, we have them in 3 separate platforms. We have Info, and then we have Project Docs that allows our electronic plan review. And then we have a custom-made applications on our website that allows people electronically to apply for permits. Our existing platforms are outdated and they needed to be updated. Also, we are on premise, and so we have the server actually on 8th floor of our building, and it's being managed by my IT staff. They were supposed to be managed by IT. Most of the work was supposed to be done by the department IT. So these 3 platforms, they were not completely back and forth connected. And it was also a lot of, for architects and engineers, that they do a lot of business with the department and they know how to apply. So they could navigate through our process. But for smaller companies and also a lot of homeowners, they had a lot of hard time. We still have a lot of hard time because they had to do different things that it was confusing. So we decided to, first of all, for our technology, for the maintenance, especially after the pandemic, for the continuous operation of government, the long-term strategic plan for the county government is that to move many of the systems to cloud. So that's what we have been doing. And we are halfway through our process. And I'm hoping that before end of this year, be able to go live. We are working on 3 separate tracks. One is the configuration, and there are about 6 phases, 5 phases to the project, and we are on phase 3. That is the configuration. The configuration is all of these different permit processes and business processes that we have about 130 of them that needs to be configured with the new system. What does that mean? That means that every single business process within DPS is being revisited. And there are staff, sometimes up to 20, that they are in these configuration meetings, and they are discussing that how we can streamline the process and what is the best way to handle those permit applications and review and issuing of the permit and request of inspections and then issuing UNO. And this is being done with a big group of DPS staff. They're doing all the work. And while they have to do the regular daily job that is issuing permits. So for some people, up to 30% of their time is being spent on this new system. It's a lot of work. And although at the same time, we have 3 different data that they are on premise, that is our project docs, that are e-plans, info, that is for 10, 20 years of data, and also all the document management and attachments that we have had in, I call it, in our resting place. So all of these are going to be converted and migrated to the cloud. And at the same time, the third track is optimization and customization, because the project, the system, the new system that we have purchased is an out-of-shelf system. So there are some requirements that, although we change our business process, still it would be optimized. We need some optimization and customization with the new system that we are working gradually our way through those. So when all of this is done and we have done our testing and we are ready to go live, I'm hoping that not to be very far in future, but no later than end of this year, we're going to have a system that it would be much more customer friendly, and also it's based on a strategic plan, everything in one place and on the cloud. It's a lot of work, but it's extremely exciting for what it comes. And I appreciate all the work that my staff does. And what happens is that there is a good time in between when we are ready to go live. We need to educate not only all the DPS staff, the majority is all the 220 staff in DPS, and also a lot of outreach to let our customer know that a new system is coming, and also be available and able to educate them that how they get on the system. So that's what we are. So if any other questions, I can answer it now, or I can wait until end of this meeting and pass it to Carmen to talk about some of our customer initiatives, service initiatives that we have done and it's ongoing or we plan in future.
Well, I always have questions. How are you, when you get ready to implement this, how are you going to beta test it? And is there going to be an opportunity for us to maybe help you with some of this to make sure we've got all the bugs worked out before it goes live? But what's your plan for rolling it out?
Yes, when we get to testing, there are two kinds of testing. One is in the back end, that is my staff, when they receive the applications, and they have to make sure that the business process is working as planned, okay? That it goes to all the different reviewers, and it does all the things that we have spent more than a year or so to do the workflow. The other one is the customer service interface, and that is the when you go, either you or any other customer that they're going to sit out there when they want to apply, okay, and they apply for a permit, how hard they're going to be, applying that. So we definitely going to solicit for the interface, for the front facing. And we're going to work, and you will see that how it works and if it meets your expectations. And at that time, we're still going to have time to do any kind of adjustment that needs to be done. Even though our goal is that I don't want to go live and we have issues. That's the worst thing, okay? This is a major undertaking for my department. So the testing is going to take us, testing and training is going to take us a good time. Make sure that the system is working as is attended. And at that time, we're going to solicit help. Yes, definitely. If you're interested, I make sure that, because Sonia, I have already talked to Sonia to solicit some and have a list of people that they can help us to test our citizen ads interface.
Okay, well, we would be glad to help. And I know for DC, we have offered the same thing to them. And we've got a small group of people that are technology savvy and know how to give good criticism versus complaining.
That's very good. I really appreciate that. We like to have people that are technologically savvy, at the same time people that they are not. We want to have all different group of people that they're going to work with our application to give us feedback. So we definitely would reach out to you guys. Sonia, let's make sure that we keep them in line and take their offer.
I'll share with you one thing. DC has recently rolled out a new permit wizard, and it's business process related. And it went a little bit haywire in the beginning, and I know they're making changes to it, but I applied for a permit, and the process is broke the permit into a building permit, a retaining wall permit, and a deck permit, which I know Montgomery County has separate permits for those things too. Well, then they assigned it all to different reviewers. The system sent it all to different reviewers. So we had, I think by the time I got finished with this simple project, probably 15 different reviewers involved in it. And they all gave overlapping comments because they weren't looking at what the deck guy made comments about the retaining wall and vice versa. So the business process has got out of hand on them.
Yeah, the business process, that's a very good point. The business process is something that we are responsible for, but we need to make sure that the system does what we ask for, and that's what we are testing. And I attend many of these configuration meetings, and it's a lot of discussion that is going on. And I agree with you. We have to be very careful that how we're going to do it and how we're going to roll it out. I can tell you that we try to do our best that this kind of things doesn't happen. But as a bigger county as we are, and as a big system as this is, I'm sure that at the very beginning few months it's going to be a little bit rocky. We try our best, but and we're going to be ready. We're going to have all hands on board and have the vendor and many of our staff trained that we'll be able to resolve these issues. So one thing that we're going to ask our clients, especially our technology savvy clients, that to be a little bit patient at the very beginning, that we can resolve issues. We try to get as much as we can ahead of time, but there is always, the way I have seen it, there are some that you're going to miss. So we definitely going to have you there, that especially, actually I'm hiring one of our system analysts, that is a data analyst from DAR, that she's going to start working with us as of April 11th. And maybe I can, because she was involved, she told me that actually DC government is looking for a new permitting and licensing system. So we're going to use some of her knowledge now that you're telling me that.
Yeah. In a call we just had with them, they were a little sensitive about their employees being poached. Apparently they've lost quite a few
after that. So
well, apparently they've lost a lot to PG County. Has anyone else got some questions out there for Mitra before we move on? So Cameron, are you up next? Who is going to present the customer services
I
initiative?
think that's me. Hi, I'm Carmen Barrios. I am the division chief for customer support and outreach. As Mitra mentioned, that division is about a year old now. And it was created under Mitra's guidance as part of her customer service initiative. So she brought together all of the permit technicians, which are really the entry point for the permitting process, into one group so that there is now a centralized entry location for all permits, applications, licenses. And we really do handle the administrative side of the permitting process. As part of that, we do have a number of initiatives here in the department to improve our customer service. Some of them are in the back and you may not see them happening, and some of them, hopefully you do see them and experience them as you're going through the permitting process with us. We have implemented customer service standards here in the department for all employees, really setting the expectations that the department has for things like returning phone calls, emails, voicemail, and the timeframes in which those should be done. We've also started cross-training employees so that one permit technician or one plan reviewer can review multiple types of permits. And so that way you don't have to have, like you were saying earlier, 15 plan reviewers attached to a number of permits, but hopefully we slowly over time, we can get that number down and decrease just the number of points of contact that you have within the department. Speaking of point of contact, one of the biggest things that we heard from the public was that they just never knew who to reach out to or couldn't get in touch with anyone. So when you apply for a permit, you should receive an email from the permit technician that's been assigned to your permit that lets you know that they are working on your permit application. It will give you their phone number, their email address, so that you know exactly who you can reach out to if you have a question.
Does that same person stick with the permit all the way through its processing?
Yep, the permit technician that you get when you submit your application is the same permit technician for the most part that is going to finalize your permit for you. Short of someone leaving the company or taking a new position or something like that, it is for the most part the same person. And if you have a larger project with multiple permits, we do try to assign the same permit technician to that entire portfolio. So that, again, you're just working with one person and they are aware of all aspects of your project. Another thing that you hopefully have seen or will see are surveys. So we are really interested in getting your feedback and learning about your experience. So when you finish working on an application and your permit is issued, you do get a survey on the back end to ask you about your experience. It does ask you about your experience with the department as a whole and also with the individual permit tech that you were working with. If you have a permit that goes through the land development process, there is also a land development specific survey that is going out, and we are continuing to create surveys for zoning and hopefully for some of our other divisions shortly after that. So you'll start to receive surveys about the different disciplines here in the department so that if there are issues, we can focus on those and take care of them as soon as possible, but also learn where we are excelling or doing well and making sure that we are recognizing those parts of the process and those employees. As Mitra mentioned, our front desk is open, so you have multiple ways of getting in touch with us now. You can come into our beautiful new offices in Wheaton. We're open Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4. Most permit application processes are electronic now, so you are required to submit them electronically, but we are here to help you in person if you need that assistance, or if that's just your preferred method of communicating with us. Obviously, our website is a fabulous resource for information, and Sonia works really hard to keep the website updated and fresh so that as changes occur, they are up on the website, and you have the latest and greatest from DPS. 311, the county's call center, is also a great resource if you have general questions about permitting. If your question is detailed or specific to a permit application, then your permit technician is probably the best resource for you. But for those very general questions, 311 is always available to you as well. And I won't take up too much time, but I wanted to let you guys know about 2 programs that we have. One is pre-design consultations. These are a free service that the department provides for larger projects where you can come in before you apply for your permit. We will have a plan reviewer available, a permit technician, and they will go through your project with you so that you can ask any questions. You can have your customers on that call with you if you wanted. You guys can go through the process, so there are no surprises as you go through the application process. And the second program is Design for Life. Design for Life is more for the customers, but it may be a great incentive for folks who are on the ledge about whether or not to move forward with a project. It is a tax credit program for individuals who make their home either accessible or livable for individuals with a disability. So there's a lot of information up on our website about both the pre-design consultations and Design for Life. And of course, customer service is always here to answer any questions that you might have. But with that, I will turn it over to either any questions or I believe George is up next.
If I could ask one question about the preliminary design review, suppose you have just a simple question and it's a small project. Can we just email somebody we know, like Mariella is on my email list?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a simple question, well, you know, sometimes simple questions aren't as simple as they seem sometimes, but if you did just have a simple question, you can reach out to a permit technician here in customer service. You can contact me or any one of the managers here, or if you happen to have a contact with one of the reviewers, most of them are very open to helping you with that question before you start your project so that we make sure you are on the right path. But yeah, we always want to make sure we get you that information before you get moving.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any questions?
I'd like to apologize for being late.
We were waiting for you,
First.
Melvin.
And my next question is Project Docs changing drastically?
Mitra, that might be a question
Okay.
for you.
We are not, when we go to the new system is using Bluebeam.
Bluebeam.
Yeah.
We're using
Bluebeam.
that. Some of us are using it here.
Yes. Bluebeam, actually Project Docs uses Bluebeam, but they have their own, work processes. The Project Docs that we have right now is obsolete. It's because my understanding was that it was actually obsolete since last year, and it needed to have a major upgrade to the new Project Docs. But since InterGov, their system had its own work process and business flows, it didn't make sense because Project Docs has the same thing. You didn't want to build both of them on top of each other. So with InterGov, it goes straight into Bluebeam, and Bluebeam, my understanding is that has the same capability, if not more, than Project Docs.
So it's not going to be called Project Docs anymore?
No, our new system is not going to be even called InterGov. We're going to have one system. So the way that it works, Melvin, you sign in to our new system, And we are trying, we are in the process of finalizing the name of our new system. It's not going to be like InnerGov, but just call it DPS new system. So you're going to click on DPS new system and you open an account. When you open an account right there, and we're going to have also a decision engine for people that they don't know our process. But if you know our process, right there, you can put the application. You don't need a separate, like the way it is right now, we send you a separate link to upload. You don't need that. While you're there, you apply for all the permits that you need. If you need 4 or 5 different permits, you apply. You upload all your documents for each permit, and you put all the permit fees in your basket. After you finish, you pay for them, and then you go in the same account and you see who has the permit. You see the name of the reviewer and you see the process. So anytime you log into your account, you see where you are, and it's going to keep track of all your permits. And when the permits are issued, you can print your permit right there. And then when you're ready to schedule inspections, you go there and schedule inspections right there. So you have one point of entry to do everything for any permit and any project that you have. And then you go back after your project is final, you go again in the same account and you print your UNO, and everything stays there. So if you come back next year or you come back for another project, it keeps track of everything for you there.
Oh, so am I gonna have to make a new login? Sounds like I have to make a new login.
Yes, you're gonna have to create a new account when the new system comes. Yes. Because
So
this
will there be a period where we're working in both systems, I guess?
No, because the data would be migrated. When the data is migrated on the cloud, so what happens that we may need to close the whole system within 3 or 4 days or maybe a week. I'm trying to minimize that. And the data is migrated. When the data migrated, everything is on the new system. So we cannot work in both systems, because if you have, although we are not going to get rid of the existing system until we make sure that everything has migrated correctly and all the information is there. But if you put the information on the old system, then it's not on the new system, because the new system is on the cloud and the old system is on the premise. So no, everything has to be starting on the new system. And the new system is easy, is very intuitive. And there are gonna be educational information, and it's gonna be decision engine that it's going to be designed by DPS staff. So basically, if you go at the portal and you say what you want to do, it's going to tell you, takes you through a series of questions, and then it's going to guide you what permits you have to apply for.
Yeah, Melvin, this whole conversation is recorded, so you might want to go back and look at Mitra's presentation in the beginning.
I am.
Where she describes the whole thing.
I'm sorry I was late.
No, but you just asked good questions. They fit right in.
Yeah, they were good questions.
Yeah.
If I can interject for another minute, I did forget to mention something. As Mitra mentioned, Sonia Burke is our new outreach manager. She's been doing a fabulous job of really keeping all the latest news from DPS available to all of you. And so there are a couple of different ways to keep in touch with us. The first one is our newsletter called Constructive Comments. It comes out on a monthly basis right around the 1st of the month. And Sonia is going to put a link in the chat where you can go to sign up for it if you haven't already. It's also available usually on our homepage under the What's New link. You can see them all there. The second one is we are very active now on the county social media pages, specifically Facebook and Twitter. So you can always find the latest and greatest from us there. And you can search for us using the hashtag MoCo DPS.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay.
This is Darren and Smiley. I had a quick follow-up question. So maybe I missed it. I'm just trying to understand. If we have a permit that is being, that's in the process, and we've uploaded all of our information and you switch from the old system to the new system, and that data you're saying is migrated over, but now we have to create a new account, how are we going to have access to permits that are already in progress?
You are asking $1 million question. We call that in-flight projects. So that is for projects that they are already, you have applied for. And we have not issued the permit and is in the process. So we are working with our consultants and also with our vendor that how to make sure that all the information, because right now we have a different separate business process, okay? And then it has to go started with a new separate system. So we are trying to see if we can write a script that for projects that are halfway through, we move them to the new system. And we would definitely provide information for our applicants that their projects is halfway, that how they can reach to their projects. Probably under permit number or under your name, I don't know, but I'm just guessing that as long as you have the permit number and we have moved the project in, the only thing that you have to do is probably, but I'm just guessing, okay? But that may change, that you just sign in and put the permit number and your project shows up. But there are a lot of different options right now is being looked at, that which one is the easiest and the most effective way to move this. And all the instructions and everything would be provided for all of you and everyone. Please make sure that as Carmen discussed, through the constructive comments, Sonia, every month, she gives an update of where our new system is. So the closer that we get, the better we know that how we're going to handle this. We call them in-flight projects. So this is not an easy task, but it's not impossible either. It has been happening. They have been doing that. Many agencies are changing it. And we have a few options in place. At this point, we just don't know which option is the best one for us to do.
You said many other jurisdictions have done this. Has DC has a permit wizard. Is it going to be similar to that?
We're going to have a permit wizard. I do not know how that one is to tell you if it's going to be similar or not. But the way for us is supposed to work is that this is one of the last things that we can do after all our processes in place, is that we're going to provide a wizard that asks some intelligent questions that could guide the applicant to what permit they have to apply based on their answers or responses to those questions. So unfortunately, I have not seen what DC has done to tell you that, and we have not built ours yet. That would be one of our last thing after all our business processes. So hopefully within next month or so, we're going to start doing that. And hopefully we're going to ask you guys to test it.
It's going to roll out this year or next year?
I'm hoping that to be this year. That's my goal, but it's so many unexpected things is coming up. For one thing, that our data was not very clean. So the data we have had here 10, 20 years, we have to clean all of those data. So that takes, and we have like 3 big sources that we have to move the data. So that's taking a little bit longer. And we have to do some optimization and customization. So that is taking a little bit longer, but I am hoping that not to be next year, definitely, hopefully by end of this year, if not sooner. So what we asking people, and that's what Sonia does, that when we get closer, when we have the date, we're gonna let everyone know and let people to make their own decision that if they have projects that they want to apply now. If it is right within the time that we're going to be closing the system, so maybe they want to wait until we are on the new system or so on. But that's why that we want to stay, really transparent, that everyone decides that how they want to apply and when they want to apply. But regardless to the old system or the new system, everything would be transferred to the new system.
Sounds like we're going to have an exciting transfer process.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting. I can say yes.
Yeah.
But
Can we?
One thing that I want to tell you is that we really have a very competent staff, project managers, and also a very good vendor. So I think that among all of these people, we will manage it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before we run out of time, George is ready to go, aren't you, George?
Yep,
And
yep.
then,
Thank
David,
you.
there's a question in the chat, but before,
Oh,
not before
okay.
George, but at some point, there's a question in the chat.
So,
Okay, well, George is going to talk about pre-design conferences.
Perfect.
Okay.
all right. So, good afternoon. I'm George Muste, Division Chief for Residential Construction and Fire Code Compliance. Thank you for having us. It's always a good opportunity to continue the dialogue and see how we can and learn how we can serve you better going forward. So we have a few things we would like to mention that's probably of interest to you. One is the fact that we have full staff complement at this point in time. With Mitra's help and with a little bit of luck, we were very busy, so, and we are keeping busy, so we have full complement of reviewers. We hired a new plan reviewer. His name is Parham Tavakolian, probably you've heard about him, and 2 new inspectors, Tim Robinson and Dave Wilkinson, that will replace 2 retired inspectors, Mike Cream and Brian Hildebrand. So from that point of view, we are fully staffed now. We are continuing to provide the service as required by you and the industry and our customers. Another big thing I'd like to mention is the adoption of the 2021 building codes that will affect everybody. The IRC 2021 will be adopted probably by the end of this year. So we start working with that. We have a committee and we do go through the provisions and we amend them accordingly as we've done in the past. If you wish, I mean, you can see the document online. It's free. Look at the 2nd edition of 2021. And if you have any concerns, or based on your experience, we were too strict or too lax, please give us feedback. It's always welcome. Anyway, when we finish the adoption, we will come out and we'll do the open houses as we used to do it in the past. So those are the major things I'd like to mention. And then I'll give Bob Kelly a chance to talk about Appendix J, which may affect you. Mariela will talk about common mistakes, although with this professional group, we don't have too many, but there's always something which we'd like to mention so we have even better applications going forward. And then Jim Sackett and Jeremy will talk about the inspections, with Jeremy emphasizing a big change which may come if we adopt NEC 2020. Any questions for me? Was there in the chat a question for me?
Mitra answered the question, and it was about pre-design meetings, and
Okay.
they do offer pre-design meetings if you missed
Yes,
that.
and we are always there. We are always having a plan review. Sometimes we need to involve staff from other divisions, from Carmen's division, the PTs that process the permits, or from land development or zoning. Will make sure that we try to be all there to answer all those questions. It's a big deal for us and for the industry. We're going to get busier and busier, but I think it's a good initiative, and we try to help people as much as they can before submitting the applications, because I'm pretty sure there are plenty of questions sometimes about exactly what you said, Dave. I mean, I'm applying for a permit that may have a retaining wall, a deck, and an alteration. Do I need a permit? Do I need 3 permits? Do I need 4? Do I need 5? As today we treat them as combo. Going forward in the system, we're still going to keep some combos. If you have any ideas about what you more often combine than not, let us know. So we'll try to configure the system to accommodate that, the new system in the business process. So when you apply for an alteration in a deck, you don't have to apply for 2 permits. You apply just for 1, but you'll have the possibility to indicate that you add the deck with the alteration and so on. So it's important.
Yeah. And if we saw that running afoul, we would contact our permit technician that we have received an email from.
Yes, but it's important right now in the configuration phase to know what typical combinations you would have, alterations and decks, additions, alterations, and decks. So we'll try to configure as much as we can to accommodate all those situations.
Mhm.
Right.
One thing that I heard earlier was that you were going to notify us who the reviewers were at the beginning of the process. And I think that's really a valuable step to
Yes,
take.
yes, yes. Okay, so without any delay, I'll ask Mariela to talk a little bit about the quality of the drawings submitted, and if you observed any opportunities for improvement there, Mariela?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I have new headphones. And yes. Okay. We typically, when we receive the review, we really appreciate drawings that are drawn to the highest quality and following drafting standards. With that being said, we observe in many occasions a couple of things that are a constant issue. For example, missing a cover sheet. We would like to have a cover sheet that includes the project address, the scope of work, list of drawings, and residential design parameters used for that particular project. Also, another thing that we often see missing is existing conditions plans. For example, if you're doing an interior alteration, we like to see existing and proposed plans to understand the scope of work. Also, in cases where you have an addition or a sunroom addition, we would like to see existing condition floor plans of the area adjacent to that screen porch, just to verify that, for example, an emergency escape opening is not being blocked by the addition. Now, simple existing conditions floor plans really help us understand the scope of work. Also, if you have structural changes on your project, say you're adding a beam to open up the kitchen into the family room, then we like to see what the existing structure layout is for us to verify that if you are installing a beam, that is adequate. So we need to have certain information regarding existing conditions that we often see missing from plan submittal. And in addition, that's, I think, typically for additional alterations and small projects, it's a common issue that we have with the submission. Then when it comes to online submission, I think it's very important that the applicants are familiar with the applicant user guide on e-plans and that they use the right naming conventions. And when they resubmit, they use the same file name as the originally submitted file, so we can keep a record of the change marks. And at the same time, we know which drawings are being revised. Then lastly, I wanted to talk about when a design professional is required. That's also, it happens that we receive a project and we notice that a design professional is required due to the complexity of the structural arrangement. When construction methods that are not covered under the IRC are proposed, such as post and beam construction or installation of steel beams or new openings into existing reinforced concrete foundation walls, or retaining walls that are over 4 feet in height, will require a design professional. And I think that's, in short, the things we often see with plan submittals. Is there any questions that you may have?
If I could just add to that a little bit,
Yes.
on the DPS website, there is a very comprehensive list of what is supposed to be on a set of plans,
Yes.
broken down by architectural and structural. And I don't know that you've updated that recently, but that is a document that I know I use. And, you know, we ought to make sure that it stays up to date too.
Yes, and I would
It's a
really
great
appreciate
resource.
it.
It would
It's a
be
great
out
resource.
swinging, just like the bifold.
Say that again? Cliff? Okay.
Okay. I would like to have Bob Kelly talk a little bit about one aspect of the code, which you may use, you may not, but it's advantageous. If you're not aware, it's Appendix J. Bob Kelly, please.
Yeah, it very advantageous along, especially with a lot of the housing stock that we have that's older. So when you're looking at projects that you're going to need to renovate the basement, make habitable space or habitable space in the basement, Appendix J gives you reduced ceiling heights. It allows you to use stairways that may not meet minimum code in the IRC. So it's very beneficial. The county adopted it in 2018, and we intend to include it in the 21 adoption as well. And there are a lot of provisions in there that'll help. To touch on one thing on the pre-design consultations, really beneficial, especially if you've got a complex or confusing project and you want to find out if you're heading down the right path. That's a great way to do it, because we can bring people from land development, zoning, well and septic and so forth into the meeting and get a lot of questions answered. They're real beneficial. We meet almost every day at 10 a.m. So, and right now, I think we're booked through April already. And other than that, I appreciate your members, because I think most of the plans that we receive from you, from your group, are enjoyable to review. Because some of the plans we see are drawn with crayon, and it's very challenging. I really appreciate, in fact, if any of you that are going to think about building a deck, take a look at the Montgomery County deck details, because Mariella put that together for DPS, and it's very, very well done. And with that, I'll be quiet.
Thank you. Jim and Jeremy are dealing with the field. Jim is the manager. Jim and Jeremy will talk about some important changes regarding electrical issues. So Jim, can you share with us the most important things you have for us today regarding residential inspections?
Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Can you see that changes to the NEC code?
No,
Angela, if you got it.
No.
it's set to allow screen sharing, but I'll make sure.
Okay.
Gotta love the technology.
I know. If you need any help, let me know. I can talk you through it.
It is probably me.
There you go. You're doing it.
Okay. Well, let me get it to the right thing, and here we are.
Now we can see it.
Okay, all right, and Jeremy is our field supervisor and a master electrician, and Jeremy's going to walk us through a very big change coming in the NEC, the National Electrical Code. Jeremy?
Yeah, so in the 2020 code, they are requiring an emergency disconnect on the exterior of the homes. So this would be for new construction or for the replacement of an existing service. The commentary on this is that we're helping the first responders be able to disconnect power without pulling the meters as they were doing before. So, and there's a couple ways you can do this. He's got the code up here as it's laid out for the 2020 code. So it can be an emergency disconnect or it can be a service disconnect. So the wiring of it will be dependent on the equipment used and the markings of the equipment as well. So you can have just a simple emergency disconnect where the grounding still remains on the inside, or you can do a full-blown, service disconnect or meter disconnect outside, where the grounding would then be on the exterior and the inside would then be a sub panel.
Okay.
Okay. And Jim, you mentioned that there were two things you wanted to mention. It was working without permit and revisions as well.
Right. And working without permits for this group, that's not a problem. We do, my staff gets a lot of service requests, and we go out to job sites with people that are doing work without permits. Oftentimes that's, especially in a hot market like this, it's the flippers, and we'll catch them doing electrical wiring and place stop work order and issue violations. But I just want to go over briefly, when you're doing a small job, but you remove walls, you add walls, non-load bearing or load bearing, you increase window size openings, those things require a building permit. Electrical permits are required anytime you run a wire. You can change out fixtures, but as soon as you run a wire, you're going to need an electrical permit. And mechanical, it's when you're replacing equipment or running ductwork. Revisions. The inspectors can work with you when your job needs to be, to have some changes from the original plans, when you're going to differ from them somewhat. If you provide a stamped and signed structural revision from a design professional, it's got the address, the permit number, and the changes, as long as it's not, certainly not increasing the footprint or, major, where you're changing the entire roof framing or something, we can save you the trouble of going back in and revising your plans and getting it reviewed. And we can do a field revision, take the architect's drawing, inspect by it, through it, and then image it into the system. It'll become part of the plans, the recorded plans. Okay?
I'd like to
Thank
ask a
you.
question.
Yes.
So if we're doing a residential alteration and repair and we're doing a heavy up, do we need to include that on our plan set?
Electrical is not required to be in residential plans. So no, the answer is no.
Will we have to do this disconnect if we do a heavy up?
Yes, I'll let Jeremy answer that, but the answer is yes.
Okay, but we don't have to show it on our building plan. Okay.
But this is not the current legislation. We are talking about the future. This is 2020 NEC. Today we are in NEC 2017 that doesn't require it, but we may go there. So just be prepared.
Right. So when do you think next year it'll happen?
First, we are kind of proactive here. We started our committee discussing all these changes now, and we're going to be ready in a couple of months or so. But the state has to adopt it first, and after that, the Montgomery County will adopt the legislation. So we hope that by the end of this year or early next year, we'll be able to share with you what changes are and have those open houses to give you the opportunity to learn about the most important changes that will be triggered by the adoption.
And typically, George, it'll be coming down about next summer, not this coming summer, the following, these adoptions.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, yeah.
Mr. Medley, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I guess this question is for Jeremy. I now, when we do a heavy up, or when we're building a service and we put a disconnect on and we go through with SER, points of ground would be in the disconnect switch on the outside of the house. My question is, how do we go through that with SEU on a putting a disconnect out there as an emergency disconnect? How does that qualify not being the point of service?
It's all in the labeling and the equipment you're using. So if it's listed simply as an emergency disconnect only, then you can pass through that SE cable through the house and have your grounding inside.
So we would need to have a label on there that would state that as being emergency disconnect only?
Yes. Yep. And that's a part of the code language that Jim had up earlier. And again, as George was saying, we haven't adopted 2020 yet, but this is just something to think of down the road.
Well, appreciate your answer. Thank you.
That's
No
the
problem.
listing and labeling of the product itself, Jeremy, correct?
Yes.
We thought it's important because it may come sooner than you expected. So you have some heads up on what the changes are.
Thank you very much.
Okay. What about Building Safety Month?
Well, Building Safety Month is happening in May, and it's a month in which we have some special programs to share with the public to make them more aware about our role and the importance of the staff, building officials, in ensuring that their life and safety is protected. So there's a proclamation signed by the council and the executive. And then on a weekly basis, we have little programs where we, again, make people more aware about who we are and what we do. And then special information, typical information for typical hazards, backyard safety, green buildings sometimes, whatever we think it's important. So it's about 4 weeks. For us, in addition to educating people about what's available out there and why it's important to understand what codes do for the people's well-being and welfare, we have a practical program which we've been offering now for many years, and that's free deck inspections for homeowners. So our inspectors go out and make an assessment on existing decks, and we inform the homeowners if they need to improve or not improve the deck. So it's very welcome, that program, and we do hundreds every month, Building Safety Month. Sometimes we go into the summer as well. So that is a very well-received program as well. So please visit our website, and you will see week by week the important information we need to share with you. It's not just residential; it's commercial. Sometimes it overlaps with land development. Sometimes it overlaps with other divisions. But that's the intent of the Building Safety Month, to make people aware that they live in the built environment. Their safety is protected by these requirements, and they have to be aware so they can comply with those requirements. And if there's something wrong with it, they can get in touch with us so we can advise them how to make the environment better and safe. Because a lot of people don't know what's a building code. I mean, what is a building code? What is DPS doing here? Well, we try to inform people about our role, and because we are very important, but we are not seen like other agencies. I mean, if you go on a fire job, you see lots of firefighters, but a lot of people don't think that these buildings and houses, how many collapses do we have? How many problems do we have? It's almost insignificant, and that's just because the regulations are as they are, and is an agency that tries to enforce as much as possible, administer and enforce, and make people compliant with the requirements, so they are safe in their environment, and the whole community is safe and very much desired to live in.
Well, that's a great service that you provide for the homeowners.
Thank
So,
you.
before we close this up, are there any last questions about anything that's been said? This is your chance.
I did. This is Darren. This is Darren again. I just did a quick search on the Montgomery County website, and I wasn't finding anything about the Appendix J. Can you? Is it somewhere on your website?
Yes, it's in the website. If you go under the tab codes, codes. Let me get there quickly.
Darren, it's part of the building code. It's in the
Yeah,
book.
it's part of the residential code.
And then you do code and
book here, right here.
That's where it's at.
click on the residential tab. Then under the left, building codes. And the first one, 2018 International Building Codes, ER 3119.
Okay.
And if you go towards the bottom of the document, you will see Appendix J. Basically, what happened in the past, a lot of people were building, installing new habitable space in the attic and basements, and the stairways were always an issue, the width, the height, and everything else. So people had to spend money to go through a code modification to get acceptance for some conditions in the field. And we amended the code, adding in the Appendix J and setting the standard for minimum height and width of those stairways. So that's the most important thing for people. And being standardized like that, we avoid people going again through the bureaucratic process of obtaining code modifications. There's also a cost with that. So we avoid that, and we issue the permits faster. People know what our requirements are ahead of submitting the project to us, the application. So Appendix J starts somewhere at the bottom. It's a page. And so far, I guess, talking to our team, I don't think we're going to change that substantially. They changed the designation, the section numbers, but the substance is the same.
Sure.
So it starts on page 29. In
So when does Appendix J, when is it valid to use it? And I'll use an example. I did a second floor addition and used Appendix J because the stairway didn't meet the codes. But during plan review, the plan reviewer also put a note on it that the width must be 36 inches. So they didn't relieve me of that obligation.
No, this is intended only for habitable, new habitable space created in existing basements or attics.
So I was creating a whole second floor.
You were creating a whole second floor, so you had the opportunity to do something about it. And then you have to comply with the new code construction requirements, which are 36 and whatever. And however, okay, there's still always that process. Sometimes the structure is such that you cannot enlarge that, or you cannot increase the height or the width. We are listening to you, and we can have a dialogue, and you can get a code modification if that's the case. But most of the time, people should try first to make it better as required, because that was new construction. It wasn't an attic or an existing basement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
A new construction was a brand new house, not an addition.
Doesn't apply.
If it's a brand new house, you have to go at the beginning of the code, not in the appendix where we have the stair geometry described, and we have not amended that. Yeah, this is just for existing buildings. It is an acknowledgement that existing buildings may have these situations, and we try to work with the industry and understand that. We try to make it safe as possible for people living in that house.
Additions
right.
and additions are also new construction.
Yes.
So when back to my second floor, the staircase was in the old part of the construction. If you have a question, then you contact your plan reviewer and do a
You
meeting
see,
and ask these questions, because it becomes a little dicey as you go through this.
yes, and I guess just to let you know that the first contact at DPS, you know the plan reviewers because you may get in touch with them. But the first contact at DPS, if you have a broader question that covers not just plan review but the status of the permit, for example, you can contact directly the PT, as Carmen said, and that PT will help you get to us or help you get where you should be when, depending on what questions you have to be addressed. So we can share with you a little table showing that certain permit technicians are assigned in accordance with the last digit on the permits. And Jim told me that we should talk about this because a lot of time we receive questions from customers and they don't know who to get in touch with. So to make that more direct interaction with the department, we are sharing with you this table. So the first column shows the last number, the last ending digit of the permit, and that's the permit technician. So for permits ending in 123, we have John Diaz and so on and so forth. I don't want to waste your time, but that's something you would like to use. You may use it. You may, in addition to getting in touch with us. We are always here, but sometimes the question is just not for plan review, residential, it's for, or inspections, it's for something else. So this is another tool you may have to get more direct access to the PT.
George, and I would just add, everything you said is correct. I would just add that this does change. We have a new PT on board who will be up and running shortly, so the numbers will change. So the best place to find out who your permit technician is your point of contact. You guys saw Crystal Roberts on there. Crystal is the manager for RCI, among other things. If you do not know who your permit technician is, you can always email or call Crystal as well, and she will tell you who your permit technician is. But it is assigned based on the last number of your permit application number.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking this time to talk with our group. And these meetings are recorded, and we find that they're very helpful throughout the year. We refer people back to the recordings all the time. So it's not just this group. We had a good turnout today, but this meeting will live on our website. And thank you for that. And
you are very welcome. We really appreciate you reaching to us. Anytime that you need us, just let us know and we can come and give you some update or something. I like to do that because it keeps us in touch with, especially with the professional, clients that using our system and give you updates. So that's a good way.
well, I think Bob and Jim and everybody else will attest to the fact that this is not a shy group. When we've got something on our mind, we know where to go.
Sure.
And, you are very helpful in having the directory on the homepage. It's very easy to get in touch with your staff, and that's a really good thing. It's very responsive and good customer service. So
Yeah,
thank
thank you. That is a controversial subject, but we have kept it online. So.
I think one time you experimented with taking it off, and it lasted about a week.
Well, we really do appreciate the customer service you provide to our industry professionals. We hear a lot of great feedback on Montgomery County. So good job.
Thank you. I have my staff to thank them. They are doing a fantastic job, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
And then if
Thank
I
you,
could
guys.
do
I'm
a,
out.
If I could do a commercial for our next call next month, it will be with DCRA, and we will be talking about a checklist for plan submission, and it will be based on the Montgomery County plan submission list, but we're expanding it. And as Mariella said, one of the things we're going to concentrate on is what should be on an existing set of plans. How can you review something if you don't know what's on that existing set of plans? So that's our topic at DCRA next month. Stay tuned, and we will continue with this program. Thank you guys for attending today.